taking a critical look at the gaming news of the week. This is Augmented Reality, presented by the Triple S League.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Augmented Reality Podcast. Sorry about that little delay there. Having a couple of little technical issues just because we're setting up on a new system here. But anyway, welcome to the Augmented Reality Podcast for December 21st, 2019. My name is Ashenity. This is your source for news, leaks, and insights about games in the gaming industry. I'm here, as always, with Cybsidian. How you doing this morning? And, yeah, you're not coming through on the stream either, so I apologize, everybody. Let me just fix this.
Oh, I'm not coming through on the stream? That's not good. Oh, no, I can okay. Hear myself.
Oh, well, you weren't... The little volume indicator was indicating that nothing was coming through. All right, sorry about that, everybody. Welcome to the Augmented Reality Podcast, your source for news, leaks, and insights about games in the gaming industry. Everything should be working now. All right. Yeah, well, after that rough start, let's jump into it. So, welcome. Like I said, thank you to everybody who's already busily chatting in the live chat. Some interesting things to discuss today. We've got, of course, if you've been following our channel over the past few days, you know, the new Cyberpunk 2077 ARG is starting, and we've got some news about that. We've got a lot of scheduling things to discuss with regard to the podcast over the holidays coming up here, as well as several live streams for the Cyberpunk ARG. The Netflix Witcher series has debuted. We're going to discuss that a bit, as well as a couple of other just little interesting things. General news. So yeah, if you are listening live today, please do say hello in the live chat. Send us your questions and comments there as well. We'll address as many as we can throughout the podcast today. And don't forget to slam that like button. Likes it rough, and it tells us and YouTube that you appreciate this content. If you're listening after the fact on one of the audio-only platforms, we're glad you're here as well, and we appreciate your likes and follows. It does take us a day or two to get the podcast up to the audio platforms. So if you want the latest info sooner, we encourage you to hit the link in the description to subscribe to the Triple S League YouTube channel, where you find all kinds of fun and interesting gaming content. You know, when you start fresh on a brand new computer, you try to account for as many things as you possibly can, transferring over, you know, settings files and things like that. There's inevitably stuff you miss. For example, just looking at my my script here. Notepad had not been set to word wrap, and so every paragraph was like this one long line stretching way off into oblivion. There's just, yeah, all these little things you don't think of. All right, should be the last of the hiccups today, though. So yes, if you have watched the Netflix Witcher series, I'm interested to hear your take on it, even if you've just watched one or two episodes. I meant to watch more than one last night. My intention was to watch at least two, but I only got through one, but watched it with my wife, and she was eager to go on to the second episode, and I was like, unfortunately, I think I need to get to sleep so I can actually be coherent when I wake up and talk about it in the morning. So, yeah, but anyway, we're going to talk about that a bit. And first, though, let's discuss some scheduling stuff. So, of course, with Christmas coming up, and Christmas and New Year's, Christmas Day is on a Wednesday, which is when we usually do our podcast. Of course, we will not be doing our regular Wednesday podcast this week on Wednesday, nor the following week on New Year's Day. So be aware of that. Now, as far as Saturday, I'm not 100% sure what we'll be doing, if we'll be doing the the regular Saturday podcast, or if we are going to just kind of do a sort of general year wrap-up thing. Cyb and I are still kicking ideas around for that, which we might do, New Year's Eve or maybe on the 30th or something like that. So if you want to, we'll announce it, of course, on the Discord server and also on, the YouTube community page if you are, if you follow there. But yeah, like if you have any ideas, if you'd like to let us know what you'd like to see this year, you can let us know on Discord. Great community there you can join as well. Lots of great discussions always happening there. So yeah, we will keep you up to date on that. But also with the Cyberpunk 2077 ARG. So if you're not caught up on what's been going on with that, we received a mystery package in the mail, which we actually, we played it up in the announcement video. We did know it was coming. We weren't allowed to say anything about it or talk about it.
Yeah, that's something that obviously gets checked with the.
Yeah. So we played it up in the announcement video. We played it up for laughs, like it was something we were completely not expecting. But we did, of course, receive word that we were going to be getting this from CDPR, and we did. Similar packages also went out to, pretty much exactly the same package also went out to Last Known Meal, Neon Arcade, and the Mad Queen Show, and 2 other creators, which I'm not sure if we're at liberty to say who they are, because I don't know if they've, we haven't been in communication.
We can say who one is, because we've been able to establish contact with them. Sometimes it's a little harder to. It's like we know who everybody is, but we don't have but we haven't heard back from hey, you got the thingy. When do you want to do such and such? And it's like no answer. So no, right now it's just unfortunately we've got we don't have everybody in the same conversation, so to speak. So the as it stands right now, there's 5. The other one is going to be Juicehead, and he may be hopping on one of the podcasts in the next day or two as well, but is a very, very busy time for him due to holiday season. Obviously, there's some people who that affects a little bit more than others. So he will be doing content on his own, but he might be dropping in on some of somebody else's content a little bit sooner rather than later. Yeah, and we've got the last one. So right now it's pretty much a full house, but we just got got last minute things to iron out with everybody else.
So anyway, what we have planned for this is since there are 4 packages of or 4 different puzzles included in this ARG, which all combine together to reveal something. So 4 of those, 4 of us in the Cyberpunk 2077 community, as far as the community podcast that we do. So we were like, let's each take one, do 4 separate live streams. And apparently, like we've been told, Lulaya has warned us that these puzzles are very difficult. And of course, we're live streaming them to involve our communities in this. So you can be a part of this ARG process if that's something that's interesting to you, or you can just, watch to be entertained or whatever you want to do. But the first one is going to be on the Mad Queen Show's channel, and that live stream is going to take place today in just a few hours. It's going to happen at 1 p.m. Pacific time, 4 p.m. Eastern time, 10 p.m. Central European time. And the link to that video, actually, Cyb, would you mind grabbing that and dropping it in the chat, and then we'll she's already got the live stream set up, so you can go there, get a reminder for that if you like. The second live stream for the second envelope will be done by the Neon Arcade tomorrow, Sunday, December 22nd, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central European time. Now, you may recognize that as the time when we usually have the Cyberpunk 2077 community podcast, and it was scheduled to be on Neon's channel this week. And so we're doing this sort of as a replacement for the normal community podcast, but I do believe that
It's everybody's still going to be there.
everyone's still going to be there.
We're still going to talk about there's still some news that we're going to talk about. We'll spend probably about an hour and a half or so on the puzzles. Maybe a little less, maybe a little more, and then we'll obviously at some point we're also going to talk about the news, because there is actually a little bit of news outside of that. But obviously we're gonna be focusing on the ARG stuff, because there's gonna be clues and hints possibly coming from there. So we don't know yet. We haven't actually cracked the envelopes at all.
No, we have not looked at them. We don't know.
We've been honest about that. We have not, nor do we have any plan on peeking at anything. It's going to be as much of a surprise to us as it is going to. And trust me, it's been tempting, because it's been there for a few days. It's like some of us got those things like really, really, like a couple days ago, a long time ago, and we were like, must not open.
Yeah.
Now.
So the third one will be on Last Known Meals channel, Monday, December 23rd, 7 a.m. Pacific time, 10 a.m. Eastern time, and 4 p.m. in Europe. And then the fourth one will be the same day, a little later. So Monday, December 23rd, 1 p.m. Pacific time, 4 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Central European time. Right here on the Triple S League YouTube channel, we'll be opening the fourth envelope. And then after that, I don't know if there will be a fifth step that we need to do, but we're kind of playing this by ear, just because we don't know what's in the envelopes really. We know there's some kind of puzzle or riddle to be solved, and of course we want your help with that. We want you to be a part of that. So we staggered these live streams out, so hopefully as many of you as possible can be a part of all of the live streams, or as many as you can make, that kind of a thing. So there you go. So, Cyb, you mentioned Cyberpunk news, though, and I'm curious. So, is there anything you wanna talk about here as far as Cyberpunk 2077?
Yeah. So okay. So there's a couple news blips in the lineup. The first one is that it's not super Cyberpunk related, but we'll cover this one. Get to the Cyberpunk stuff. Speaking of The Witcher and The Witcher series, apparently it is being reported by a couple of places, including Screen Rant, that the author of The Witcher series has reached a new licensing deal with CD Projekt Red to continue making the game series. So this is what we were anticipating. This is what we were obviously hopeful for. Everybody was hopeful for this. It was not official. And as far as like, it's not even. It's been announced on their website officially this morning. So we know that this is like 100%. We know that this is working, and it's going to contain new stuff and new Witcher content for the future. So there was, like I said, there was this period of time where those of us who were following it, who knew that one of the threats that this particular creator was doing is that he was going to take the series over to some other gaming company and get them to make it, because of how upset he was that he, when offered originally whether they could make a video game series, he laughed it off and said, no, pay me up front, because this is never going to make any money at all. It's not something that's that good, and it's definitely not going to translate to whatever this video game thing is. I laugh at your pathetic attempt to try and make something out of my product. So pay me up front, and I demand this much. And you made almost $1 billion off of this. Well,
wait a minute.
Now I demand having access to all of your content. It's like, okay. I'm being a little snooty at the creator. I'm not. I don't have anything against him personally. I just think the way that he approached this was really, really, really rude. But sometimes you gotta be rude. But anyways, just posting that link here again in the chat for the Mad Queen stream, which is in 6 hours roughly. Okay, so great news, because this means that new Witcher content, this is going to be great. I am super stoked for this. We're going to get stuff in the future, possibly, a little bit more of Geralt, probably maybe a little bit more of Siri. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, very exciting. And that announcement is up on their webpage today. Then in other Cyberpunk news, somebody apparently doesn't know what an engine is, and doesn't understand that an upgraded engine is not it's not a brand new engine, but that's what's being reported. Now we've talked about this before. Yes, they were working on Cyberpunk at the same time they were working on The Witcher. They got to a point where they said, okay, you know what, we need to do a big upgrade to this engine. Apparently some journalists think that this means that there's no similarity of engines between the Witcher engine and the Cyberpunk engine, despite the fact that it's the same engine. It's just obviously been upgraded quite extensively. So, yeah. I really, really, really wonder how and why some of these people get these jobs. So it's a brand new engine, according to some article, and that it has that has no connection with the original engine that was used on The Witcher 3.
Right.
Except it's the same engine that's just
upgraded version of the engine. Yeah.
Which is the same thing. This is like Unreal 3 to like Unreal 3.5. It's not even really it's not really even like a 3 to a 4, because of how similar it is still. It's not a brand new engine like some journalists can't seem to quite understand. So yeah, that happened.
Yeah.
We laugh hilariously at
we had this discussion about Bethesda at one point. I think it seems hauntingly familiar.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously engines can be upgraded, and obviously they can go, well, this is a completely new engine because this one has the ability to do ray tracing. It's like, yeah, and so does the Minecraft engine. The Minecraft engine couldn't do ray tracing, and then they patched in ray tracing, and now can do ray tracing. So is that a brand new engine? Is there a brand new Minecraft being released that's never been released before? No, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. It just has a different lighting aspect. It's just an upgrade to the existing system. It's not a brand new engine.
Yeah, it's like adding in a new hard drive on your PC or something, like adding in putting more RAM in. Like, is it a new PC? I mean, there's a philosophical argument to be made there. If you eventually, if you replace every component in your PC, at what point does it become a new one?
Doctor Who did this one.
Yeah.
And this is one of the best. The current Doctor Who is kind of garbage, but I do remember this one thing is where he's like, take a broom, for example, and you replace the head, and then you replace the stick, and then you replace the head, and then you replace the stick, and like, is it the same broom? It's like, not strictly no, but
well, yeah. Well, we had this discussion when I was doing my psychology education.
Mm-hmm.
If you replace every part of your body, or say you systematically they develop cybernetic neurons, and you systematically replace every brain cell, every nerve cell in your body with synthetic ones, are you the same person?
Well, I mean that happens just naturally over time. Every 7 years, every single cell that was in your body 7 years ago and a couple months ago is no longer present in your current system.
It's Yeah, it's bizarre to think about. I think there's like a few core brain cells that never get replaced, but other than that, yeah, anyway. We're going off on a tangent. It is kind of related to Cyberpunk, but I
Yeah,
can see
so
us going way off track there.
it's an interesting concept, but it's still like it's not really what we use for.
Yeah. So anyway, I mean, as far as common vernacular, like it's the same engine. It is the same engine with some upgraded pieces to it, but it's essentially the same as the Witcher 3 engine. And
which is why they still, you know, the shooting mechanic is not going to be as smooth or as perfect as a shooting game. I think that they can't really get that for the moment. I don't think they can really boost that up to like a 10 out of 10. Like if you're being honest with yourself. And I don't think it has to be. I think as long as it gets above like a 7.5 for the shooting mechanics, which I've heard that it's closer to like an 8 or an 8.5 by honest people. Then I mean, you know, that's good because it's not a shooter first, and they've been very clear on that from the beginning. And I don't want a Cyberpunk thing to be a shooter first. It's like, you know, going back to look at how D&D games evolved. You know, for the longest time, you had D&D games that were trying to give you you know, the experience of the D&D world and building a character. And so you had games like Baldur's Gate, Neverwinter, and these games actually had a sense of like, hey, this is actually a D&D experience. And then you had games that came out and they were like some like action game with just like spam attacks and there was no character development, no, you know, placing of points, or it was just a you know, it's just an action game, a really bad action game at that. And you had a bunch of people, you know, like I remember back when this kind of stuff was coming out, and the my best memory of like certain gamers at the time, um, or like the gaming press back then, and I mean this has been around for a long time, right? This concept of like, you know, people who don't like, who are just, you know, they just like the flash, right? So I play this game expecting a D&D experience. It's not a D&D experience. It is not it has nothing to do with D&D. It is just a flashy thing. It's got a similar paint job, but that's it. Everything else is completely different. And there is a chunk of people, especially journalists, who are running around going, "Oh yes, 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 yes! This is exactly what we want. This is amazing. Look how flashy and fast this is, and look at the graphics. The graphics are so much better than these old chunky games." It's like, yeah, but it's not a D&D game. It's just a dungeon like action game, and that's not what D&D is. D&D is like, it's like, well, I spent 40 hours crafting my you know, crafting my character's backstory. Like, you can't do that in an action game. Like, I mean, you could theoretically, but there's no point to it.
Right. But anyway,
There's
the
no
point you're getting
in-game
to is
connection to
that so it's not primarily a shooter. Cyberpunk 2077 is not primarily a shooter. It is
No,
an
and it's not
RPG.
supposed to be, because the original content was, you know, is this like sit down and create a party and play with your friends thing, and they need to keep that. And if they don't, that's really kind of throwing away the original feeling of what the game should be and what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And like, you have to have that, and they've been very honest about sticking with that. And yes, just like back then, when these games that had no spirit, no life, no uniqueness, not a D&D game at all, you can't even remember the name of some of these games. there was the one that came out, the big one that came out right after the it came out was the next game in the official release of D&D games after Neverwinter Nights 1, I think. And it was an action game. It revolved around 3 characters. And it was touted at the time, because I remember this very distinctly. There's a whole bunch of media types who were running around saying, "This is the future of gaming. This is the future of gaming. You have to play this." It's like, nobody remembers that game. Nobody talks about that game. There's not people playing that game today. However, there's still an active community that plays Neverwinter Nights 1 still today. There's still an actively large community. People still sit down and play Baldur's Gate all the time. Nobody plays this stupid, crappy action game that has no bearing on the story and is not an actual D&D game. It's just a stupid thing. And they're clucking around like chickens at the time going, "Oh, this is amazing." These are the same people in some cases, not obviously all cases, obviously, but in some cases, there's one reporter who's like, "Oh, look, this has to be, a really good shooter, because that's what the Cyberpunk universe is all about, and you have to make it a perfect shooter, and if it's not a perfect shooter, then I'm not going to like the game." And this is the same idiot who years ago was clucking around over how amazing this new action RPG game was and how it was going to change the universe. And it's like, my God, you are so arrogant and so stupid in your like foresight that how do you have a job in this industry? Seriously, how do you manage this? And it's not surprising, because like, if you follow the one particular person that I'm talking about, they advised on this big project for it's one of these MMOs that came out a little after World of Warcraft kind of hit it big. And this idiot was one of the people that was like, "Yes, spend $500 million developing this new MMO that ended up bankrupting itself and all this other stuff." And it's like, great. You're why do you still have a job in this industry? Why? Because this is not the first time that you've made a stupid call like this, and they still have people today jumping around going, yeah, we need this to be a shooter first. And it's like, no, we need this to be a story and an RPG first. If it's a shooter first, then it's not going to be remembered as anything other than a subpar shooter, because it's never ever gone the other way. You know what shooters, people remember what shooters are unique and game changing to history. You got Half-Life and you got Halo. So there's 2 for you.
Wolfenstein 3D.
And these are games that were that's their genre, right? To begin with, is that kind of stuff, and they push the envelope in that. If you're going to take a studio like the studio that CDPR, and the Witcher creators, and then you're going to sit them down and say, okay, take this beautiful in-depth RPG world of Cyberpunk and make it just a shooter, and throw out all of the concepts of story and the Cyberpunk universe. Just like throw that out. You're going to end up with something that's akin to either Alien Marines, or some unknown title of like, everybody thinks back, and those that can remember at least go, yeah, that was just such a bad idea for them. But this is the same idiots who always say this when it comes to stuff, and they go on the record and they never get like called out for it, and it's kind of mentally, it hurts. It's like I can't think why would some people still be encouraging today this idea of like, look, we don't want an RPG from a company that's primary creation has been good RPGs. No idea. But
Right.
anyways.
Yeah. Folks in chat mentioning some other shooters, Quake, Doom. Yeah, those two were definitely. And we're talking about the original Doom.
Yeah, again, designed for it, right?
And I mean, the 2016 Doom was pretty good.
No, yeah.
Like, I think as far it definitely.
But
pushed
nobody's taking Doom and saying, "Hey, let's make a racing game," because
or even an RPG.
that's
Like
what
Doom
it
is
needs.
just Doom. Doom is Doom guy killing demons. That's what it is, and it's just the shooting mechanics are everything in that game.
Yeah, and I think if you take the world of Cyberpunk and you try and force it into the can of just being a shooter, of just being a generic, like, good lord, like these are the people, these are the idiots that I'm sure at some point, if they were in the room when Cyberpunk was being like worked on originally, I honestly think that some of these people would have been in that room and would have said, you know what we need to do with this game? We need to make it like Overwatch, because Overwatch is huge right now. Let's make it like Overwatch. Come on, we have a lobby, and then you have all these like sci-fi characters, and you could just run in and kill each other, and where would they be right now? It's basically like it would be another Anthem, right? Because that's really what happened with Anthem.
Of course, they didn't do that though. They had Mike Pondsmith in the room, and what really excites me about this game is that
then thank God
he has said that
exactly.
He's gone on record saying that this really is close to his original vision for Cyberpunk. So that really that's a reason to be excited.
Yeah, and so I'm excited for this, and I'm excited for the general direction that they're in, because they're not listening to the people who are saying, "Hey, let's make this, let's make that." That it's like, and these are the people who have tried to do this and have done this before and have ruined companies and ruined lives. Like I said, this is one person in particular that I'm thinking of, had a lot of say to do with chasing a fad, which got a big company closed down, which bankrupted a big company. And all along they're sitting there touting like, oh yeah, well, you got to chase the fad. It's like, okay, no,
fad chasing rarely leads to memorable games.
Yeah. And I like, and when it comes to CDPR and when it comes to this, Cyberpunk is not a shooter first.
No.
And that is absolutely 100% the best thing that they could possibly say. Yeah. And I'm so happy for them.
Ali Mahfouz says a revolutionary shooter would be where if you reload your weapon and you still have ammo in the mag, you lose all of it. That would be a genuine move up in terms of FPS. Yes. I don't know. I have never encountered a game where that actually happens, where if you swap out the magazine and there was still ammo in the magazine, that you lose that ammo. Yeah, no. Never seen that. All right.
I think Arma or something like that. Some of the survival games kind of have that feature. But I'm
sure there's probably something out there.
Just one more quick thing on Cyberpunk. If you're actually if you still haven't pre-ordered it, and you're wanting to, there's actually a sale right now, a winter sale on it, and so you can actually get it for a little bit off, over at GOG too. So
interesting. Having a sale on pre-order, I don't know. Interesting. I don't know how the whole pre-order thing is, touchy. But if you're intending to pre-order it, I guess now's the time. Okay. We have some speculation going on in the chat about what in the envelopes, so I just wanted to read some of these. Time Bean says, the envelopes are empty. Cyberpunk is a cruel world. Tara K. The ARG will lead everybody to an HD 12K image of Johnny Silverhand's augmented junk.
Yum. That would just be great.
Oh, there's a sound clip for you.
Just put that up on, Christmas is coming. Have the family over. Just have that as a centerpiece in the living room. Yeah.
Simon, 2 questions, Randall. Seriously, imagine a letter in the envelope with just 2 words like, ha, gotcha. Yeah. That would be cruel. Terror K says it's going to lead to a video of Keanu performing Never Gonna Let You Down. We're going to get Johnny rolled.
It wouldn't put like how they've done the ARG so far, and it's like you get an image file that you have to like put into a sound converter that then gives you like this or that. It's like imagine getting that and you're going, oh man, and then you kind of like throw it away or whatever, and then like the couple weeks later it's like, oh no, that was just the beginning. You had to dunk it into a solution of like bleach and carbon and it would expose a code. It's like,
bleach and carbon, hey?
How are you supposed to know this?
Well, yeah, Jack the Dynamite just said something similar. If the envelopes are empty, use UV purple light. It's invisible ink. Yeah, pretty sure it's just going to be some sort of sheet of paper inside, but thank you for the ideas and the speculation. Now, we should get on to talking about the Witcher TV series. Somnolence asks, how many envelopes are there in total? 9. Although, for some of us, some envelopes, like we had 2 envelopes combined into one, and it's got like numbers 1 and 2. There's a set of puzzles, there's a set of hints for each puzzle. So that's 8 envelopes total. And then there's a 9th one that contains, well, you'll see, sort of the main central thing where you combine everything. And you'll probably see all of that if you tune into Mad Queen's live stream this afternoon.
Morning.
All right, so the The Witcher launched on Netflix. I caught the first episode last night. I know some of you have seen way more than that, or the entire series. Even Last Known Meal already yesterday put up a review of the entire first season. So you can check that out if you want. It's just relatively, well, it's spoiler free. And I'm not going to go into any spoilers either, but yeah, some of you have already binge watched it. Let us know what you think if you've seen it put it in the chat. Moraj says pretty cool sword fighting from Henry C in The Witcher. Yes, and Time Bean says loved the sword play. The sword play. While we're on that topic, yes, it was pretty good. I like that it wasn't just sort of the rapid cut fight editing where they're just throwing action shots at you and you can't tell what's going on. No, it was well choreographed. It was well shot. You could tell what was going on. It was very, very good sword choreography.
There are movies and shows that have they have the stylized sword fighting, which I could definitely like look at a particular movie that's out right now, and it's like, my lord, do these people not know how it's an embarrassment for like sword choreography. And then you go back and you get like Princess Bride, where it's like every single thing that they're doing is an actual real thing and is actually how you actually do sword fighting. And not that this show is 100% perfect, but it is pretty good and it's pretty on the mark. And so I've got to say I'm very pleased with that, because again, that means that Henry he's not just like jumped on this because it's a bandwagon. He actually has put a lot of himself into this. He's taken the time to learn this stuff, and the directors have taken the time to do this properly. Hopefully, like you said, hopefully We haven't seen the whole thing yet, but hopefully that sticks through constantly.
Well, I've heard that, from what I have heard, it like the quality remains. I did hear one sort of episode, or did hear one review that sort of disparaged one aspect of it, but yeah, I find it like it's the sword choreography is realistic, but realistic enough, but also sort of fanciful.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, it was really cool to watch. It was very good. Overlord 580 says, I watched 5 episodes. It's different, but great show. There was an earlier comment from Russ Hunt saying, I did not want to like The Witcher. I want to hate it, but so far it is kind of good. So there you go. There you go. That tells you it's... Yeah, overall, like, not necessarily, I wouldn't say it's like the best show I've ever seen or anything, but it's very good. I like the fantasy horror aspect of it. I can't compare it, and of course the connection to the games is of course great. I can't compare it to the books because I have not read them. But overall, the general arc of the first episode, as first episodes of a show goes, I thought was quite good. And the fact that they had at one point a massive battle scene with 2 armies was quite interesting. So they did go really big at one point, but also then just the the rest of it where it's just Geralt on his own or just interacting with people in various ways. I thought was just super well done. The writing was pretty good, and the acting. Okay, so the acting of Henry Cavill as Geralt, I wasn't sure about him at first. When we first saw the reveal of him just sort of dressed as the Witcher, looking into the camera, and I was like, they're doing a Legolas show? What? But he embodies the character quite well. I was impressed.
Yeah, no, I think, like, again, I understand some people are still on the fence about it, and there's some people who are like, no, just get the original guy who played the originally Geralt, but he doesn't actually look anything like Geralt, so they'd have to do like a 3D computer generated version of Geralt. It's like, okay, I don't think that's healthy for the long run. I don't think that this would actually benefit anybody really in the long run.
Yeah. Idle Dragon says, I really enjoyed The Witcher as a whole. Would have liked more episodes, but definitely can't wait for season 2. That was Last Known definitely said something similar to that as well. He's really looking forward to the second season. Let's see here.
No, I think overall from what, and I haven't finished it, but from what I've been hearing, as far as like the hardcore fans go, it's not a disappointment.
Yeah, well, and that's the real interesting thing. And I've been following what people have been posting on our Discord and various other places. Someone on our Discord is part of some sort of a group of Polish-speaking fans of the original books, and they're not disappointed with the show. It sounds like, so that definitely says something. It's better. It's more based on the books than it is on the games, which is good in my opinion. Go back to the original source material as opposed to the games, but you'll definitely, like, if you've played the Witcher games, you'll know the characters and that kind of a thing. We should also talk about Siri. Siri is quite well acted. I couldn't believe there's this when you first see Siri, she's dressed as, she's just kind of like looks like a street urchin, and then then in like the next shot she's a princess, and you could barely recognize that she's the same person. It's quite, I don't know, it's quite interesting. But yeah, her acting was quite well done in my opinion. She's definitely different from Siri in the games. But you're going to get a lot of that. I think as if you haven't if you've only seen the first episode, as it's progressing, don't
Well-
expect Yennefer and Triss and all of these characters to be exactly the same as they were in the games. They are based more on the books, and they're going with kind of their own interpretation, independent of CDPR's interpretation of these characters.
Yeah, and I think that's fine. You have to have some difference. You know, if it was the exact like, there's a I saw some tweets and people talking just over the last year and a half that this has been basically ramping up. Somebody's like, you should just do the blood and wine. It's like, okay, so they should just do like not even any of the base story. They should just do blood and wine and make that the TV show. Yes, like
No, the
and
one thing
get people to act it out. No, just use the current audio. It's like okay. That's not how TV works. That would never ever happen. I know it's tempting to say that, but that's just not going to happen. And well then it's a wasted product. And it's like
Well, I think what you really don't want, if I was the producer of this show, what I would really not want is for you have. I wouldn't want it so you will have had to play the video games in order to understand what the hell is going on in the show. I think that would be a disaster for it. People would, you want it for a more appealing audience, or sorry, to appeal to a wider audience, I should say. And so yeah, you've got to lay that foundation. And so one of the comments I have heard on this first season is that it really goes really fast in a lot of ways, laying the groundwork. But you kind of have to do that. This is an entire
I think
world.
They had to sell this to the audience first. This isn't like Game of Thrones. I really think that they expected that to do well, and even if it didn't, I think they said, "Look, if it doesn't get renewed, for more seasons, we'll at least be able to end the story at where they kind of finished off with the first season or the second season. It's like we can end it off there and just call it a day." And that I think with their production quality, they knew that it would stand the test of time. However, I don't think this is the case for The Witcher. They didn't just have like all the millions and millions of dollars that HBO has. Netflix is kind of run into a wall recently. They can't be greenlighting absolutely everything anymore. And I think what they needed to do was what they did was like, let's show that this actually has a chance. And let's show that first, and then from there I think it'll work. So
Right. All right, Time Bean says, having read the books, I'm super happy that they started in Blaviken and the Slaughter of Sintra. It was a good way to start the thing. And I haven't read the books, but yeah, that was and it was this first episode, it was pretty heart-wrenching in a lot of ways. And it's definitely a dark show. Both literally and figuratively dark show. But it was really interesting to see that aspect of Ciri's origin, and not sure how that pairs up with the games, because like in the games, like she you see her training with Geralt when she's really young, and she's definitely looks older in this in the TV series, and she has not yet encountered Geralt as far as I know. But then there's that shot from the trailer, go find Geralt of Rivia, he's your destiny. So it's anyway, overall really quite good. I'm trying to think if I had any. I did have one thing I was going to comment as far as a criticism, but now I can't remember off the top of my head. Now, I did watch. I've heard that in the second episode onward, and I can't verify this for myself, that it focuses less on Geralt and more on Ciri and Yennefer. And this is kind of that what some people were calling a bait and switch, that it was going to be more focused on the female characters than on Geralt. I don't know if that's a bait and switch, just because it's called The Witcher. It like Geralt is the central character, but it's not necessarily. I don't know. I don't consider that necessarily a bait and switch, that it focuses on other characters, right? But I don't know. I haven't seen it for myself. We'll have to. I'll sort of update my impressions as I go through the series. But that is what I have. That's what I've heard, and I heard one reviewer complaining about that. And anyway, I don't know how much stock I put in that. Honestly, like, I think I'm very interested in Ciri's story at this point, and I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that side? Like, it doesn't seem to be.
I don't think it. I don't think it's a big weight.
I don't, even if it's true, I don't think it's a big deal. I wouldn't call that a bait and switch. I don't know why people are calling it that. I think that's silly. I think from the perspective of the story of the creators, I think they realize that they need to do more than just have it centered around a single character. Right. Well, yeah, it's an entire world, right? Yeah.
It's a sizable world with a very wide cast of characters, and if you want to have a short series, like 2-3 years, then focus on Geralt and like it is in the game, and that's about it. You're not going to get more than 4 seasons out of that. You're just not. There's very few shows where they don't branch out, and they can recover that. You have to have a super strong lead who just carries the show constantly, and that's basically all they do. And then everybody else feels or has a sense that they're not a very good or well-used character, which doesn't make people want to stay with the project at all. And that's not easy. Now, sure, there's situations and scenarios where obviously they where that's not the case, but for the most part and for the majority of scenarios, this is like obviously something that you have to consider as a creator, as a director, and whatnot. And so no, I disagree strongly that it was a bait and switch. I think if you expected that, then like you're not aware of the demands that is on current show runners in trying to guarantee that their product is and their jobs are going to be there tomorrow. It's like they're trying to do their best to give this a 5, 6, 7 year run, and that's what they're trying to do. So,
well, beyond that,
I don't think you can do that just with Geralt. I think by the 3rd season, everybody's going to be like, yawn. It's just like another Superman. It's like another whatever, and that
yeah.
wouldn't really have carried anything.
But I mean, good storytelling, like you have to have other characters, and like you want to get invested in these stories that have like even in the first episode, the antagonist in the first episode, they spent some time building up who she is and what her story is, and that's what makes it interesting. If it's just, oh, Geralt's fighting another monster, no, like what really appeals about the world of the Witcher is how rich the lore is, how established the world is, and that you have all of these intertwining stories, and
or you just add more boobs.
Well, that's too, yeah, I guess.
That's funny.
Yeah. Well. Anyway, just checking on how it's reviewing here. Metacritic, the user score is 7.0. Not bad. That's in the range. I might rate it personally a little higher than that. Well, of course, only seen the first episode, so I guess take that with a grain of salt. On Rotten Tomatoes, it's got a 90% audience score, And of course, the official critics are rating it in the 50s range. It's got a 53 on Metacritic, a 58 on Rotten Tomatoes from the official critics. So that tells you it's a good show. Well, that's just, of course, as we discussed on the last podcast, Star Wars: Rise of Skywalker seems to be the massive exception to that. And I'm actually just going to refresh those pages here. Let's see how Star Wars is doing. It's got Rise of Skywalker sitting at a 54 from the critics and a 5.0 from viewers. And now on Rotten Tomatoes, something strange is going on. Because the Rotten Tomatoes audience score for Rise of Skywalker is 86%. And some people are getting a little tinfoily about this because that seems really odd.
I was about to say that. There's a lot of tinfoil theories going around about that, and I have to agree that there's something definitely fishy going on there.
It's definitely suspicious, yeah.
As a numbers person, as an algorithmic, I don't want to say genius, but Wile E. Coyote, Wile E. Coyote, super genius, tends to agree with me on this case, but there's definitely something a little fishy going on, and that is unfortunately really difficult. I mean, I know that when, like, I have seen this happen from time to time too. It depends the theater, depends where you're at, depends what's going on. But and I was talking with somebody that runs a theater nearby. I'm like, so, went to go see this movie and the whole theater was sold out. Like I got there just after it had started and there were like 4 seats left. I got in there and there were 3 other people in there. Like, how is this a thing? It's like, oh, well, sometimes there's bulk purchases done by third parties that just buy up seats. And I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, it's kind of weird. They buy up seats for shows, and they'll do this like during like matinees and stuff like that in the afternoon where there's not very many people. They'll buy like 80% of the seats. I'm like, huh? Why? He goes, don't know. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, looking at that, I would say put 2 and 2 together, right? Now I'm not. This is not my experience with obviously this new movie. I don't think that's something you would do. This was a movie that had been out for like a week. It was like in its first week. That was it. It was like it comes out on like the Thursday night. So it's the Friday show, the Saturday show, the Sunday show. I went to go see it on Monday afternoon, and it was me, 3 other people. But when I was choosing my seat thing, because they had the electronic, like, choose your seat, every other, like, there was 3 seats left, 3 or 4 seats left, and 2 together, and then another one kind of spread out. And I was like, why is this here? So when people get tinfoily, it's because it's not that hard to do that stuff. It really isn't, and it's not even really a bad business move. Is it an honest business move? I don't think you can argue that. I think it's dishonest if that was the case, but I'm not saying that it is the case. I'm saying that it would make a hell of a lot of sense, and I wouldn't put it past anybody. Like I just wouldn't put it past anybody. You have to see the cultural impact to stuff. And I mean, yeah, you can force your hand on a lot of stuff, right? So,
yeah. Anyway, definitely fishy. And Rotten Tomatoes, of course, with the whole fiasco surrounding Captain Marvel, and they changed they changed how they do things. So you have to verify that you purchased a ticket in order to have your review be counted in their official count or something. Not entirely sure how it works, because you can read reviews from people who don't, who haven't been verified. But anyway, they changed that whole system, which, I mean, it kind of makes sense.
Well, I mean, we knew that there were we've seen copy pasted reviews for a while now. Like, we know that this is a thing, and some of them are quite, they're quite tricky. It'll be the same review, and it'll go like this: I went to go see this with my blank and blank. And at first we were expecting this to not be that great, but then it was actually really good. And such theater, or, some other topic, then it continues, like the pre-scripted thing. So you could tell that it's a script that's just being filled in by bots. Like, the blank and blank is filled in with mom or dad, brother and sister, whatever. And
yeah,
you can see these things. They're not long, they're not short ones. They're like a paragraph or two. But sometimes those paragraphs are mixed up, so that what you have in the first review is, they've got 3 paragraphs, and the sentences are just reversed in some of those paragraphs. Sometimes the paragraphs are switched up, but it's the same thing with the exact same writing, except for basically where name, or like brother, sister, or whatever, something like that. And then it's like just spot up stuff. And we have actually had an experience with members of our inner community here, when with dealing with other YouTubers. We've had an issue where, like, some people get an app to help them run their Twitter or something like that, and they discovered that the app is liking tweets that they're not liking, and so they have to uninstall the program, and they're wondering, why is it doing this? And it's not that it's following people and liking people that they don't follow. No, it's liking things that certain people are pushing. So again, from that direction, it's like, how do you make yourself appear to be, to have a bigger following? Well, you buy tweets, but if you buy tweets, that's fake and artificial, because those bot accounts that are doing the tweeting, those are bad. If you could somehow buy people who are fully active on Twitter, if you can somehow buy them to like some of your stuff, that's a gold mine, because that's like active users being, promoting your stuff that they don't know that they're promoting. And that seems a little fishy, like really fishy, but it happens. And again, it's like this is stuff that should be investigated, because this is obviously big proponent of free speech, also big proponent of not having speech put in your mouth. That's really rude. I don't like putting words.
Presumably if they're buying,
they're not buying.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
They're not buying the person to like them automatically. It's they're buying their tweet deck to do something that they don't know that they're doing.
Right.
It's like you go to a restaurant. First time you've ever been in this restaurant. You go to it and somebody's like, "Oh, I heard you really like this restaurant." And you're like, "What are you talking about? I've never been here before." No, seriously. Here, look. See, you posted this like a month ago when the restaurant opened. Opening night, amazing food. I suggest everybody come and try it. That's why I came here. Is because you did this. And you're like, I wasn't here. I was in another city when that happened. How did this? Who wrote this tweet? That's kind of what's going on here. Not specifically like that, but that's like me just paragraphing a little bit more easier for people to understand. It would be like that stuff. And so it's like, It's like, okay, yeah, that's interesting. And again, this is only happening from what I can tell from like tweet decks and stuff like that that are not that are not super kosher, like super like good. Like these are things like programs that I would be like saying kind of I really don't think you should be given access to your social media to this particular thing, right?
Especially
But not
considering how
everybody has
much
that.
trouble you can get in these days for
Yeah,
a
yeah, yeah,
single
yeah.
social media, saying the wrong
Even
thing on
even
social
for a
media.
like, it's like
Yeah,
it's
like
so
somebody.
torture.
Oh, yeah. Didn't someone get
And
legal?
Twitter, I
Someone
mean,
got
Twitter is
legally
really bad for this.
investigated in Britain or somewhere for liking a tweet.
Hmm.
And I mean, the tweet they liked was, of course, awful. But still, that's way too authoritarian for my tastes. Anyway, we should move on here.
Okay, sure.
First, though, we love seeing everybody so active in the live chat. If you want to keep the conversation going after the live broadcast, please join our Discord community. You can find the link in the description below. It's a place where you can chat with us and other Triple S community members about all the things we love to talk about and stay up to date about everything we're doing here at the Triple S League. Click the link below to join. Be sure to say hi to us in the welcome channel. Also, while you're down in the description, check out our affiliate link to Toink Toys. It's a great place. It's just a lot of fun stuff on that website. Awesome collectibles, costumes, games, and more that you can check out. And if you use the affiliate link in the description, that helps to support the channel. All right. So a few other things to talk about. First, before we get into, we're going to talk about AI Dungeon 2 a little bit, and Cybe had something to talk about with regard to live services, some more general gaming news. I just wanted to mention something about the new Xbox, though. We were mocking it for its name, the Xbox Series X, and for its appearance. Basically looks like a skyscraper or a refrigerator or something like that. There was somebody made a meme comparing, the new Xbox to like the new PlayStation. It was a fake PlayStation design. Someone just made this as a meme, and it was a refrigerator with the PlayStation logo on it. And some journalists were reporting on this as if it was real news. I found that both funny and depressing. Like the PlayStation is almost exactly the same design as the Xbox Series X. Oh, really? This thing that is clearly a refrigerator with a PlayStation logo photoshopped on it. That's the new PlayStation design. Okay. Yeah, all right. Anyway, so apparently it's not actually called the Xbox the Xbox Series X. It's just going to be called the Xbox, because that's not confusing at all.
I've been saying for like a decade now, two almost. It's like, Xbox, stick to naming them. Get back to naming it whatever current generation it is. Stop with these ridiculous, stupid names. You guys are driving everybody crazy. Nobody gives a crap about like the random stupid names that you call it. Just go back, say which version is this? It's the 6th version. Okay, let's just call it Xbox 6. Okay, let's do that. Let's not confuse people, because what's confusing is it's like, hey, Dad, I want an Xbox. Okay, son. Goes to the game store. Hey, I need to pick up an Xbox. Yeah, which one you want? You want we got a refurbished 360. We got a refurbished some of the mid-tier ones. It's like, I don't know which one I need to pick up. So it's like so annoying. It's
Right. Anyway, this is still really confusing as far as what they're actually calling it, because according to Business Insider, an unnamed Microsoft representative was quoted as saying this: "The name we're carrying forward to the next generation is simply Xbox, and at the Game Awards, you saw that name come to life through the Xbox Series X." That's I don't know what that means. I
used to play this game when I was a very early program. We'd sit around and like get the other people to say X as many times in a row and as fast as they could. Because sometimes you'd say something that you weren't supposed to say, and then everybody would giggle and laugh, and we were 12, right? So it's like it's like that. It's like at some point you guys have to realize how stupid this is.
So bottom line, we still really don't understand what, like, I don't know what the Xbox Series X refers to then. Is that is that what they're calling it internally? Is there going to be, multiple versions of this? I mean, it's sounding like they might have, multiple versions of the new Xbox, kind of like how, you have the Nintendo Switch and the Nintendo Switch Lite. There might be, multiple Xboxes. But one thing that is apparently confirmed is that it's going to have extensive backward compatibility. At launch, it's going to have backwards compatibility with the Xbox One, with the Xbox One games, and then they're going to expand that to encompass Xbox 360 and the and games from the original Xbox. So that's interesting. If you're an Xbox gamer, there's some tidbits for you. All right. So AI Dungeon 2, this is an interesting one. I never heard of AI Dungeon 1, but I saw some stuff about AI Dungeon 2. It's a text adventure game where basically the narrative and the story that you're playing through is crafted by a neural network as you're playing the game, and it reacts to your responses. And it reminds me of when I did a video on something called Talking to Transformer, which is a predictive text AI that's based on a neural network. And, it's live on a website that you can go to, and you can basically the way that one works is you put in some prompt text, and it takes your initial text and then it expands it based on just huge amounts of data. It's basically trying to predict what the next word should be, and then it'll construct very realistic, well-written paragraphs, basically. Although often what it's talking about is complete nonsense, and it's rather funny. At first blush, it sounds like something written by a person. It's quite interesting. Anyway, so they've expanded on this concept, not them, but some other people have expanded on a similar concept to create this AI Dungeon 2. And I went to try and play it, but it's complicated to set up unless you contribute to their it's a Kickstarter or something, their Patreon or something. There's an app version of it. Anyway, I haven't played it yet either. Or I just have not played it yet for a variety of reasons. I didn't have time to really figure out how to make it work. But the concept sounds really fascinating, and this is the kind of thing you've been talking about for a long time, Cyb, about what's coming down the road for gaming and how neural networks and AI will be used to actually create games, or maybe even procedurally generate games in ways we've never seen before.
Yeah, no, it's definitely coming. There's a lot of technology that is in the pipeline that's going to be used at first in kind of off control ways, where it's like they're going to use the net to make it first, and then they're going to check it over, and then they're going to add it to the game. But eventually it'll get to the point where there's an AI that's attached to a game that's kind of like a live servicey thing, like an MMO or something, where it's creating content off the fly for everybody who's playing the game nonstop. and you will never run out of content, because every time you complete a quest or a chain or something like that, the AI is going to have a new story prepared, and it's going to try and make it, more enjoyable for you than the last one. And it's going to constantly be learning. It's going to be learning what you like. It's going to be learning what you like to do. It's going to be learning your preference and your choices in quests. And these aren't going to be small choices either. With this one with the AI dungeon, it's massive. It's legitimately endless.
Well, it's theoretically infinite, because it can create.
It's a choose your own adventure book. So it's like, it gives you a scenario, you choose what to do. It gives you another scenario based off your choice. So if you're you enter a labyrinth or something like that, where there's thousands of exits, but you only take one path. It's kind of like that, where you're entering in, and it's like, what do you want to do? Do you want to turn, you want to go down through door number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or 10? And it's like you and a bunch of other people are choosing different doors, and then you're presented with another, number of doors. And I'm saying a number, even though it's technically infinite. So especially the way that they design this is because it's very, very open-ended.
Well, yeah,
So
because you just type in what you want to do, right? Like, it's not like
Yeah.
the game just gives you a set of choices. Like, do you want to pick up the sword or drink from the flagon? Like,
yeah, it's not giving you a binary choice. It's like, here's a scenario, here's a situation, what do you do? And you're like, okay, well,
so you could type something like, I want to take the sword and slice the flagon in half. Like, something you can just be completely creative like that, and it'll actually respond to that.
It's like
is just
and
crazy
it's kind
to
of
think about.
kind of funny, because I've seen some scenarios where it's like you encounter a troll, and it's like, okay, well, what do most people do? Most people fight the troll. Some people run away from the troll. Some people try and sneak around the troll. Then you can also do things like, I walk up to the troll and say, "Troll, I don't want you to hurt me. I really love you. Let's let's go see a movie together."
Let's
or
Netflix
something.
and chill. Let's go watch The Witcher.
It's like it'll run with that. It'll run with anything, no matter how crazy and how silly you come up with an idea. It's going to run with it, and really good.
And that's really like, yeah. If you think about expanding this idea beyond just text to actual graphics and 3D models and things like that, like, you could, if you think about it, if you have a network that has access to, tons and tons and tons of architectural building design data, you could have it where it designs realistic buildings and just plops them in a game for you, and they're all unique, but they're all like realistic. It's not like, you're not going to get like a toilet in the middle of a kitchen or something. Like, it's going to be based on real world data or that kind of a thing. It's fascinating to think what might come down the road if they start using this kind of technology. Ejime Zetai says, invite the troll to the tavern for a beer or two. Yeah, exactly. You could do that, and then you could carry the story on in a completely creative direction like that. So yeah, I do want to try this one out. This AI Dungeon 2. I just it's still, as far as its release, like, I know there's an app version of it. Terror K, but what if you type use the toilet in the middle of the kitchen? Yeah, well, there's the thing though. Like, when you're talking about predictive text, like, you can type in a response. I mean, I guess we could progress it to the point where there are graphics, but then you also type things in, like the old Sierra adventure games. Like that's possible too, and then it could just like create, especially if it was using like simple 2-dimensional graphics like that, like that would be, it could create some crazy stuff. But yeah, like, if you're talking about going into 3D and say doing like a game like Cyberpunk or a game like The Witcher or like 3D graphics and it's more of an action game, yeah, you could have it where it like creates different kinds of monsters and then like creates lore for them and that kind of thing. But maybe when you're in dialogue with somebody, you are actually just typing in what you want to say, and the possibilities for that could be fascinatingly endless. Plus, then then it can also use speech generation so that the AI characters respond in unique ways. The possibilities are pretty exciting to think about.
Yeah, and I mean this is like really a new direction. Like we really are facing a new direction with this stuff because this is becoming more and more like experimented with, and we haven't seen everything yet that this kind of technology can do. And trust me, we're getting there.
Yeah.
We're getting closer and closer every day. So, like, yeah, we're gonna be watching this with great interest.
Now, I suspect that there's going to be kind of an uncanny valley with this whole technology, in the sense that like
And
you're
that's
always
why
going
I
to
think
get weird anomalies in your stories and things like with AI.
and that's why I mentioned that I think one of the things that they're going to do first, you know, is that they're going to curate most of this stuff. And then once they finish curating, they'll have one solution or they'll have one kind of like direction that they're going to go, and then they're going to try other more interesting ways to mess with the concept. But first, we're going to see curated stuff. So I suspect that there's going to be a job in the future that's going to be quite commonplace where you're going through the computer's generating quests and you're going through it just to make sure that there's no, the goat said, no, I don't do that to Spider-Man jokes. Like you're gonna be avoiding those things that are making no sense and or are not appropriate for the content that you're making. And you're just gonna go through it, you can double check it, you're gonna read through it, you're gonna do some slight grammar fixes and alterations here or there, and then you're going to be like, okay, quest's good, stamp, right? And then off it goes into the game, and then it gets set up within the scenario within the game, and all you're really doing is you're just checking on to make sure that the audio and the visual and the story is correct and is doing the right thing.
Right.
Um,
Although as XMEX says, all you need to do there is design a neural network to auto curate the stuff generated by the other neural networks, right? Like,
as we know from every single possible sci-fi horror movie when it comes to AI, the last thing you want to do is have AI checking and creating itself. It's just you need a human buffer in there somewhere.
No,
unless
exactly.
you're an idiot and you have a hard on for the destruction of your species. Yeah, do that, that. Oh my god, it's so
all right, exciting stuff. But let's talk about how live services are killing the gaming industry. We'll end off with this. Should have talked about this first. I hate ending on a down note, but anyway, I mean, being a little hyperbolic there, it's not going to.
Well, I think
it's not going to kill the gaming industry.
It's going to kill the gaming industry. As far as the gaming industry that is currently set up to rely on this kind of stuff, and what it really boils down to is that the battle pass kind of system, it's very similar to a lot of other like it's like a subscription service, but it's a repetitive thing that creates a reward mechanic in your brain and gets you to worry about missing out and gets you to constantly stay in the same content. And this is bad for gaming. And it's getting worse and it's getting more aggressive and it's going to get more control-y. if I can use that word. And this is ultimately going to end up causing massive damage to genres and games that both genres and companies, I think, is what we could say. It's going to affect genres and companies more because eventually you're going to get stuck into a loop and you're not going to want to move away from the loop and until you get sick of the loop and the whole system, and then you just walk out on the whole system. And so that's kind of more or less what's going on here. And we need to, like, the industry needs to like shape up or ship out, because this is very, very, very foolish for them to continually do this and to think that they're making progress with just the industry in general or with gamers. It's like, no, eventually you're going to hit the wall on this, and it's not going to be good. It's going to end poorly for everybody and everything. Yeah. And so that's kind of where I'm at looking at this going, yeah, I don't think you guys know or realize how much of a hole is being created here. And the developers are the ones to blame, for this in regards to whatever companies are currently running this system. It's not the same as a subscription thing, because there's time pressure and there's a whole bunch of other things involved in it. And it's just a little bit too repetitive. And, it's problematic. It's very, very problematic. And you combine that with the live service, because obviously you don't really have this in something that's not a live service, right? If it's a completely offline game that you can do whatever you want with it, that's not the same thing. It's not the same thing at all. There are people who make mods for like Skyrim and stuff that have like Patreon pages, and the only reason that those mods are getting updates is because of that, because it's in some of these cases, like, these mod creators have been around for literally doing this for nearly a decade now, and they make good stuff. But if they weren't getting some kind of compensation for it, they wouldn't be doing it at all. And I think the Patreon system, or the supporter system, or the patron, the actual patron system of like, I'm going to be a patron of your arts, good sir. That kind of a system is not the same as this. We're talking strictly like, the pressure to buy, the pressure to develop a feedback loop of, as far as like, pleasure goes. And you're like, oh, I'm going to give the corporation this money, and then they're going to give me my next battle pass. And then I'm going to give them more, and then I'm going to give them more. And then, and it's just repeating. You kind of see this in the system. It's like watching people play, Fortnite's a good example. Like, you earn credits towards getting your next battle pass for free, but you can also spend those credits on like cool costumes. And it always goes, it follows a very, very distinct pattern. Here's the battle pass. People buy the battle pass, and then they save up the points that they're winning through the battle pass. And then they have enough points to use those points to get the next battle pass for free, so they don't have to spend any real world money on it. But then they put out a whole bunch of costumes and cool things. And I mean, it's just so tempting to just buy one of those things. And then, I mean, you just pay for the battle pass again, because, why can't you? And so you see this pattern that's developing. It was like, it's just circular stuff trying to keep you in the game permanently. And this is eventually going to cause serious damage, but it's going to cause damage not to the industry as a whole, not to gaming as a whole, but to genres and companies within it. So eventually, either people are going to get sick of the genre that this type of system or mechanic is tied to, and they're going to move on to a completely new genre, which is not going to kill the industry. That's just going to shift the industry from one type of games to another. And the same thing with companies. It's like I can't trust EA, because every time they put out a product, it's this absolute piece of garbage that is out to manipulate and control me, and I'm sick of it. And they'll move away from that company entirely. Does that hurt the companies? Well, it finally started to hurt EA, and it's finally starting to hurt Activision. They're finally starting to incur a financial cost hit with their products. Not quite, not perfectly, because they still have the pleb games, or not the pleb games. That's rude. They still have the games that are easy to make, that are repetitive, like FIFA. FIFA is not like, they're not investing like 5 or 6 years into the development of the next FIFA game. They're investing like 6 months, and they're updating their rosters, basically. That's what's going on there. They're not actually pushing any new technology. Not like Cyberpunk, right? Cyberpunk is a game that is very unique and very different, whereas FIFA is like, here's roster 2019, here's roster 2020. Is the gameplay any different? No, it's the same game. It's been the same game for a long time. They may create like slightly new mechanics or other things, but really all it boils down to now in FIFA is how many, legendary, like, top characters do you have on your list, and how many of them can you field into a thing, and then that changes every season, because it's based off of a real world system that's basically that repetitive structure. And so it's not a pleb game. It's just, it's easy to make, and it's easy to enjoy if you're a fan of it. So a better description is like, it's like, it's an easier game to get into and to get hooked in, and you don't require, to stay up constantly on the story, right? And the changes to the gameplay. You just have to keep up with the new roster every year, and you do that mostly through microtransactions, and that's the way the game is played. And you look at games like Raid Shadow Legends, basically this thing that's now become a meme. It's kind of the same thing, where it's like yeah, you had a bunch of awesome characters, and some of them are still awesome, but now there's a whole bunch of new characters released, and some of them are way better. So
all right, well, I guess that's
yeah, it's basically like, prepare to see over the next few years, prepare to see the genres and companies take bigger and bigger hits. And that mostly this will not end up destroying gaming. This will end up pushing down certain types of games, and then creating other niches and other new things, which is good, because especially in a free market, it's the best idea that's going to come out and win most of the time. There's something to be said for, like, McDonald's, right? That's an apt. Yes, I think they're McDonald's games. Nobody goes to McDonald's and then calls up their buddy and go, I just had a most amazing, dining experience ever. I went to this place called McDonald's, and I mean, the food was wow, and the service was wow, and it's just so good. No, you go to McDonald's because you don't want to spend $40 on a steak.
So you just spend $40 on crap.
Yeah, you spend $40 on crap, and you get a lot of crap.
Barely saving money eating at McDonald's, I have found, especially when you're feeding a family of 4.
Yeah, but nobody goes there for the fine dining experience.
No, exactly. I know what you're saying. It's not the place. It's not where you go to impress a date.
And in the right circumstances, it's not inherently a bad thing. It's a bad thing when it's abused or when it's addictive. And this is what we're seeing with the current gaming structure, and a lot of the issues that are sitting there with that. We're seeing a lot of stuff where it's like, oh, okay, this is really problematic. We need to do something about this. So, yeah. No, that's basically it. And there's a couple other, like, it's something that's been bugging me, and I wanted to, like, talk about it because it end of the year kind of seems something that I should mention. But I think ultimately it's not the end of gaming. It's more so the end of certain types of gaming. It's definitely going to kill gaming, air quotes, for certain types of games. Certain types of games are going to hit the wall hard. And I think what we see and what we have seen with that as far as one genre that I can point out specifically is the card game. Like card games have hit a hard wall. Some of them are doing okay. Most of them are not. And I think that is, and the ones that are doing okay, they've really been forced to like, you know, to really push out new content quickly and to change things up drastically. And, you know, I think there's more to see with that coming up. So yeah, that's it. That's it.
But beyond all that, there's a lot to be excited about in the gaming industry. So
No,
so
like
2020, we're expecting big things from 2020. 2019 has had a lot of great titles. So yeah, I definitely.
And you have seen nothing yet. Just wait for 2021. Like the stuff that's coming for 2021, I cannot say some of this stuff. You know me, but 2021 is going to be a very, very good year. 2020 is the last year for the current gen. It's very tail end of the year. We've got some new stuff. We've got great games coming out, but this is like not even pushing the envelope. I think Cyberpunk's going to be remembered pretty well, but I think Cyberpunk, the multiplayer version of that, I think that's going to be remembered a little bit more than the base game. I think the base game is great. It's kind of like Witcher, right? The original Witcher. A lot of people remember the original Witcher fondly, but when you talk about the Witcher, most people are talking about Witcher 3 and Blood and Wine. And I think that's what you're going to find with some of this other stuff. So,
all right.
So some really interesting stuff building up, headed into the future. So,
all right. That basically wraps up the podcast for today. Thank you so much, everybody, for the great conversation in the chat, for supporting this show by listening live or after the fact. Don't forget to slam that like button if you haven't already. Really appreciate that. As far as the ARG, don't forget to tune in to the live stream on the Mad Queen Show's channel. It's the first of 4 live streams we're doing over the next 3 days. Doing the envelopes, opening the envelopes of the ARG. And so the first one is going to happen in just about 5 hours and 20 minutes on the Mad Queen Show's channel. We'll post the link on our Discord server as soon as we're done here. But that's it for us for the podcast today. So thank you so much, as I said. And don't forget to slam that like button, and also want to extend a special thanks to our Patreon supporters and our channel members who help make this content possible. Old Man Manson and our 2 anonymous Big Damn Heroes on Patreon, and also our channel members, Jason Cropper, Mr. Pazdernik, Jer Schultz, Game Notes, Paul Young, Night City Punk, and Terror K. If you're listening after the fact on one of the audio platforms, we appreciate your interactions there as well, and don't forget you can join the live show on Wednesdays and Saturdays, where you can interact with us and other listeners and be a part of the discussion. See the Discord server for exact times and schedules. The Augmented Reality Podcast is a presentation of the Triple S League. Check out our YouTube channel for game guides, reviews, comedy, news updates, and tons more quality gaming content. My name is Ash. On behalf of Cyb, thank you all so much for listening. We'll talk to you again very soon.